With the links of Sangera, the CDM from PSV into Nottingham Forest, and still ties towards Tyler Adams, are we getting a better understanding of what Cooper is looking to do in this coming Premier League season? Well, let's get into it and let's find out. Welcome to Cooper's Plan. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to Cooper's Plan. And what do I mean by Cooper's Plan? In these style episodes, what we will be doing is every time a player gets strongly linked to Forest or Forest make a signing, we're going to see how they fit into what Cooper's trying to piece together for this coming season in the Premier League. So if you enjoy this type of content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new here, and you've got a couple of hours to get the last few tickets on this Jono's shirt, so make sure you go check that out. And finally, the barbecue, few tickets left. Make sure you go and grab those. The link's in the description. We'll be kicking off on the 6th of August at the Trent Nav from 3 p.m. in Nottingham. So make sure you grab your tickets and come join us for the live podcast, and then go get your food from the barbecues, get your drinks in. It's going to be so much fun. All right, so let's get into this. So what I want to do is talk in this video about the formations that Cooper may be planning in his mind because of the style of signings we're seeing. We're seeing the likes of CDMs being linked, which is really good news. We're seeing a lot of centre-backs being linked, and we're seeing some wide players, maybe wingers, left wingers and left wing-backs, etc. But how do they all fit in, and what do they all mean for Nottingham Forest? So what we're going to do, I'm going to take you over to our football pitch and let's discuss it further. Let's do that now. All right, so what we're going to do is have a look at the actual formation Cooper was using towards the end of the season. It's a bit of a funky one. I guess you could call it a 3-4-2-1, or you could look at it as a 5-3-1-1, something like that. And we'll talk about Jono in a minute as well and how it all fits in around him. But what's clear to see is Cooper felt that the team couldn't get results with just two in the middle, and he needed to pack it out. And the key player to this was really Danilo, because Danilo was playing as your number 8, if you like, the box-to-box player. So when Forest were defending, which was a lot of the time, he would drop off in between, say, Mangala and Yates towards the end of the season. And you can see already, I'm struggling just to fit them on the pitch. It puts this 5-man midfield wall, and it could be a lot deeper down in terms of where they were on the pitch. That would only leave Forest with 2 attacking players. So if we go back to how it was set up, let's just get everything back in place. It's very, very narrow. And against clubs where you don't feel you're going to get a win, that is actually the right tactic. I remember when we did the in-depth analysis against Man City, and I showed you guys how the key to it was blocking out that middle channel, forcing your opponents out wide, and then not allowing them to be creative down the middle. And Cooper learned from that Man City one, and that's what he brought in. We started to see it really towards the Liverpool match and onwards. What it means, though, is you've got a lot of work on the likes of Lodi here, who was having to get up and down that pitch, and Williams. Obviously, he got injured, so that was Serge Aurier. I think if Cooper's playing a back 5, his preference would be to play Williams over Aurier. Aurier, for me, is better in the back 4. Or actually, let me rephrase that. Williams is better in a back 5 than he is in a back 4, in my personal opinion. But anyway, the point I'm getting to here is, what is Cooper's plan going forward? Because he has said repeatedly, playing this low block football isn't the style he wants to play. He's talked about being a bit more progressive come next season. And for me, it all is going to be dictated by that midfield. This is why throughout this whole transfer window, I've been crying and moaning and screaming about a CDM. It's the most important recruitment that Forest need to do, in my opinion. Why? Because it potentially allows Cooper more options to play with more freedom in that midfield. I think Cooper is going to stick to the back 5 formation, or the back 3, whatever you want to call it. He's done it at Swansea. He did it at England. He did it at Forest in the Championship. Came into the Premier League wanting, and he recruited for that formation. Didn't work, and he had to change drastically. But his preferred formation is this. If we put everyone in place, let's just take out Mangala for now, for argument's sake. And don't worry about who the players are, but in terms of how Cooper prefers to play, it would be something like this, with the 3-4-1-2 or the 5-2-1-2. Both mean the same thing, really. But because that worked so well for him at Swansea and at Forest in the Championship, when it came to the Premier League, what you found was that, let's just take Danilo out because Danilo wasn't really there at the start. It was like a Mangala and O'Brien. And to be honest, when it was Mangala and O'Brien at the start of the season, it was a bit more effective. When it changed to Freuler and Yates, or Freuler and Coyote for a bit, we were getting overrun because it was a 2. Because technically you haven't got an out and out CDM who can just hold that position and free up the space. You're forced to play 3 CMs because you haven't got the CDM. So this is Cooper's initial formation. The one he deferred to towards the end of the last season was the emergency one, if you like. I think come this season, this is the formation that he's looking to piece together. And there's a lot of headaches for him in this because he cannot do it without the right personnel in there to play that too. And he's going to have to drop one of Mangala and Yates, or maybe both, to bring in a CDM. And this is where the likes of Sangara and Adams come into play for me. So let's just take these 2 out for argument's sake. Now, I'm not saying these are the players that are going to be dropped before people start crying in the comments. How can you take out Mangala? How can you take out Yates? I'm just showing you the style and formation that could happen and why the CDM becomes so important to Cooper. So as we've got these current links with Sangara, let's, for argument's sake, put the assumption that we get him, which would be fantastic. I think I could see something like this happening. Sangara coming in with Danilo next to him, Danilo being given the number 8 role, and Sangara being given the number 6. Now, Sangara is more than a number 6, as we talked about before. He can progress the ball forward. But out and out, he can do that 6th position. And if he's told to hold, he can hold. He's quite disciplined in it. This already creates a huge balance because you can do this in that too. Sangara and Danilo would actually work really, really well together. Because remember, Danilo can play as a CDM. So what you get is that fluidity where if Danilo commits, Sangara can sit into the hole there. If Sangara commits, Danilo can cover the space in behind him. And it will actually improve Forest in terms of the style of football we do see. So let's just bring that back into place. And this solves Cooper's headache of Jono. Because Jono, I think, is causing Cooper major headaches. We all know how good Jono is on the pitch. But I don't think Jono is a 9. Jono, for me, should always be playing out here on the right. If we look at his heat maps, most of the season, he's pretty much touching the chalk on there, playing very wide along that right position and coming in and scoring his goals, etc. Because if we set it back into where we were towards the end of the season, and this is why Jono got dropped, because he couldn't fit him into this style or in this formation. If we just quickly bring it back to the original one here, Jono, there's no way he could drop him because he needed that 3 to protect the midfield. MGW was the playmaker. MGW at times would come back and make it literally a 6-man midfield. And then you had Taiwo who could control some of the defenders with his pace, with his aggression and power. And it's like, where do you fit Jono in? And I do, in a way, understand why Jono was dropped. And now I'm looking at it thinking Cooper can't play this formation without having a CDM because it keeps Jono out of the team. Jono's almost becoming that luxury item where Cooper is struggling to fit him in. So for Jono to come back into the team, you have to lose one of the midfielders. And that's why I think this signing, if it happens, of Sangara is absolutely huge, because then Cooper can go into his preferred formation, which is this. Now, in essence, what you're going to see is Jono not really playing that role. On paper, it'd look like that, but he would actually come out wide here to the right. And you could even see potentially that front 2 turning into a wide front 3. And what do I mean by that? You could have Jono come in here, a 1E there in the middle, and MG Dub moving out into the wide, Danilo stepping into that higher 8 position, and then Sangara pushing in. Now that in itself becomes very attacking, and it leaves that central area around here very wide. Like there's a lot of space to operate there. So you need a Sangaré or an Adams. Adams would be absolutely fine at it as well. Now, what does this create? This creates what we used to have in the Championship, where you would get the likes of Spence back then coming down this wing and overlapping Jono and creating that overload. Now, it didn't happen much on the left-hand side for us in the Championship. We were very predominantly down the right-hand side. And I still think Jed Spence was better at it in terms of the chemistry between him and Jono than we've seen between Williams and Jono so far. But that can develop. That's not a major problem. But because if we just actually move Williams there, you'll see gaps do become created. So if Williams were to come up here to overlap Jono, Jono would probably nip inside a bit. And that's where you see the gaps. Now, where it worked well in the Championship, and Joe Worrell was really good at this, was he would step out into that right flank channel and cover that space. In fact, he'd come further up. And then you can leave yourself here with the two centre-backs. And on top of that, it becomes more attacking because one of those centre-backs can push forward, so it becomes Joe Worrell. So you're still not exposing yourself too much at the back with the two centre-backs holding. It becomes very attacking, but it's very hard to do with the wrong personnel. So for me, further evidence that brings me to this conclusion that this here is the formation that Cooper wants to go with is the left backs that we've been linked to. Now, obviously, Lodi is looking like he won't be part of Nottingham Forest. But those links that we've seen in Augusto, in Hudson-Odoi, in Goossens as well, those type of players are all those who can play in the left wing back position rather than a straight up left back. So it's more evidence for that. And you can see they've been quite attacking players. Augusto's very attacking going forward. Callum Hudson-Odoi naturally more a attacking player than a defending player. Same with Goossens as well. So with that happening, that creates more evidence that this is the formation he's going to go for. And in a way, I think the main reason all of this is happening is because he wants to fit Jono in. However, bringing these kind of players in comes at a cost. We've already done a video on financial fair play. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that to bring the likes of Sangaré in and for Cooper to play his required formation, Jono needs to be sold. What would the solution be in that instance? So if Jono was to come out the team and be sold for it, and again, I'm not saying he's being sold. We're looking at the hypotheticals here. And as Forest have been linked with Iheanacho, let's bring him in. Now, he would probably suit this formation style better in a way than Jono would in terms of the headaches that Cooper would face, because he doesn't play as an out-and-out right-sided player. Where he likes to operate is somewhere in between the 9 and the 10. So he's playing in that supporting striker role. And he's also better as playing in a pairing rather than if he was just to go up there and, for argument's sake, one you would come out. So that's why I think Iheanacho has been looked at quite heavily by Nottingham Forest. Everyone's always talked about the chemistry him and Awani have, their mates when they go on international, etc. So you can understand the logic behind it. But if Jono was to go and someone like Sangaré or a Tyler Adams were to come in, we could see Forest setting up in this formation. If say the two signings that came in were Sangaré and Iheanacho, this is probably not too far off the type of starting team we would see. Obviously without Lodi, or maybe Lodi, we don't know yet, in that formation. The other thing that's pointing in this direction is the amount of centre-backs that are being linked to Nottingham Forest. We've seen Sace, he's still being linked. We've seen a few other defenders, the Greek one, a couple more from the Bundesliga, lots of centre-backs. And if you're playing with a 3-back, you have to have those backups. With the likes of probably, I'd say, Bolly, McKenna, Cook, maybe up for the chopping block. I'm not saying they are, but potentially. And if you are looking to play 3 at the back, you're going to need at least another 3 who are capable of coming in and replacing them. So all the signs we're seeing in the transfer window are pointing towards this formation. I don't know what you guys think about this, but what we want to do is that every time a new player gets signed or someone comes in, we're going to refer back to this and see if logically it would change the shape or style of formation that Cooper's looking to play. But what it does allow, as I mentioned earlier on, is options, potential options, because bringing a Sangaré, or let's use Adams in this example. Let's say Adams came in. What it could mean is that Cooper reverts to a back 4, and that would be my preferred thing. So if we take, let's say, Worrell out at the moment, and we change this into a back four, more of a flat back four. For me, the other person that would be dropped would probably be Williams, and then Serge Aurier would come back in. So if we bring Aurier up as well and put him in at right back, and then what it does, it frees up a lot of options and allows Jono to come back in and operate in the ideal position for him. Because what you'll end up with is a 4-2-3-1 potentially, with Jono here on the right and whoever it is on the left. Let's say Callum Hudson-Odoi came in. We'll just put Iheanacho in there for the sake of the video right now. You can see that'd be a lot more balanced, because in that two, between an Adams and a Danilo, or say a Sangaré and a Danilo, there's enough control in that midfield to balance it out. However, if Cooper felt that two wasn't still strong enough, even with these players, he could opt to remove, say, the winger that we bring in, put MGW out here on the left, Jono here on the right, get Danilo and Adams being the enforcer, Danilo pushing higher into the 8, and maybe say Orion Yates coming back in alongside him. And it just frees up all these options for Cooper to play. This is why this CDM becomes so important to allow options and Cooper's preferred style. Even that team there, I'm looking at it now thinking, that's a pretty solid team, and that definitely could work very well in the Premier League. But it all circulates around one position, in my opinion, and that's this right here. That CDM role. So important. Now, who would I prefer out of Adams and Sangaré? That's a tough question. Adams is the more out-and-out CDM, in my opinion. But I love the idea of a CDM that has that party style, that Casemiro style, who can come in and then push up even higher and sometimes overtake the 8 and the other CM if we were playing in that formation. It just adds a bit more attacking flair into the style of football. So if I was going to pick one out of Adams and Sangaré, look, I've always said Adams was my #1 target. I thought Sangaré may be too far out of reach, but these links are getting me excited. And I think Sangaré would be the perfect piece in this jigsaw puzzle to really push Nottingham Forest on this season. What do you guys think? What do you think about this overall? Get your thoughts in down below. Alright, so I hope all of that makes sense. Look, I'm not saying this is exactly what Cooper's going to be doing with these players that potentially are coming in, or this is how he's going to set up. But it should be a good indicator of kind of getting inside the mind of Cooper and thinking how he's working things out and understanding why these players are coming in. Because that's something we should be asking every time Forest make a signing is, what's the relevance of this player? Does he strengthen us? Does he weaken us? Is it a backup player? Is it a startup player? So I think it's really important that we have these discussions. And more importantly, I want to know what you guys think. So get your thoughts in all of the stuff we've just discussed down below. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new here. And we'll see you on the next video. And come on, you Reds.